presumptuous introducing this program, because I am just so in debt to Bill and Jody Felton and Lance and Terry and Kristen and Dogan and Amanda and all of these magnificent people. I think of the glorious Thompsons. I think all of the wonderful people in Westport, this greater Westport, Weston area, who are carrying on the glorious traditions of the artistic community of this place. And of course, one of the great traditions is the Heida Hermans competition. And it's back, and I dare say it's better than ever, redesigned by Dogan very brilliantly with our great pedagogue in residence, my friend and partner in crime these many years, Professor Frederick Chu, who I cannot resist. I want to congratulate Frederick, because Frederick, well, I'm starting with Sue. Bravo to you, and to my two other friends in this wonderful piano game, your two colleagues in the jury, Mr. Simon Mulligan and Mr. Spencer Meyer, our two other jurors. I also want to congratulate, we just heard the news that Frederick has been appointed professor of piano at one of our great universities, Carnegie Mellon, a great school, a great city of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, one of the loveliest places for culture. And we are now coming to the conclusion of our first day of this magnificent week of the Heida. Again, I really will say from the heart, a brilliant innovation on Frederick's part, and I think Dogan's as well, to include in this new iteration of the Heida master classes as well, where each of our 4 finalists shows their skills to us as a mentor. And Benjamin and Sam did amazing work today with young people in 2 sets of master classes at the Westport Library with its new magnificent space. And tonight, of course, is the first of our 4 salon recitals, and we have another of our extremely accomplished 4 finalists tonight to present to you in recital. Priscila Navarro, this fascinating young woman. Please welcome Priscila. Priscilla, I think you have an amazing story. You know, here in the United States, we see it as a fairly recent development that there are all these from the Latin American world, all this great like tsunami of conductors and composers and pianists and singers, and we're all like surprised, like, wow, where'd they come from? And actually, as I do not have to tell you, there is a great and deep Latin American, South American tradition of classical music that goes as far back as our own North American traditions, back to deep into the early to mid-19th century, their own orchestras and opera companies and recital series and conservatories, and we're now like, just enjoying the great fruit of this tradition. And you are one of those wonderful artists, and I'm just thrilled to welcome you as one of the finalists. And I must say, you have chosen a glorious program. One of your garlands as an aspiring up-and-coming young pianist is you won a special prize at a competition in Spain for performance of music of J.S. Bach.
Yes.
And there were some slightly well-known pianists on the jury, like Marta Argerich and Nelson Freire. I think I've heard about them vaguely. So it's so appropriate that you start with one of the great works of Bach.
Yes, yeah. As you mentioned, Bach is one of my favorite composers. I've loved him ever since I was a child. And this particular piece is not so often played, which makes it even more interesting. Fantasy and Fugue. Of course, the fantasy was originally improvisatorial, and the fugue is actually a double fugue, so it's a rather complex work, but it's also very powerful emotionally, which I find always amazing about Bach.
Well, so for the Fantasy and Fugue in A minor of J.S. Bach, Priscila Navarro. especially in the hands of an artist such as this, but really, thank you. Well, we now move forward from the great master of the Baroque era to, I still feel that one of the most underrated composers of the great composers, Joseph Haydn. We all know him as the alter ego to Mozart in the classical era of the later 18th century. And of course, Haydn could never write an opera as great as Mozart. But I personally feel that Mozart, forgive me, could never write a piano sonata as great as Joseph Haydn. There is something about, there is this crystalline quality to this sense of perfection to Haydn's piano sonatas that, with all due awe to Mozart, is so special. And it's like he's the pianist's pianist composer. And this is one of his, he wrote many dozens of sonatas, and this is from one of the middle period works, the so-called Sturm und Drang, the Storm and Stress.
Yes, well, what I find very interesting about Haydn is that he wrote in a wide variety of styles. So, from his early years and the years at the Esterhazy Palace, and later on he went to London and wrote probably his most famous works, the last piano sonatas and the London symphonies. Right. But this particular work, like you mentioned, is from the Sturm und Drang period, the Storm and Stress, which was a kind of artistic movement that was going in Europe at this time.
About the 1770s.
Yes.
Exactly the time of the American Revolution. So.
And it's characterized mainly by, in this music particularly, very stark contrasts, sudden change of moods, and dramatic pauses.
And it's a multi-movement work?
Yes, it is in 3 movements. It's a very compact sonata, so it's not like Beethoven sonatas.
Right.
But it has all the elements and I think all the drama.
Indeed. Well, we can't wait. So, a Haydn sonata with Priscila Navarro. Carefully, as I know you did in that finale, you can hear Beethoven right around the corner. But that incredible balance of elegance and passion that you captured so well. Well, we now go from elegance and passion, I think it can be said, to passion. And one of the works from the immortal cycle of piano pieces called Goyescas by Enrique Granados, who, along with Isaac Albéniz, really founded the modern national Spanish school of piano composition. They were to Spain and to the whole Hispanic tradition what, say, Edvard Grieg was to Norway, Sibelius to Finland, Poland, and Chopin. And this was this extraordinary cycle. Albéniz left us Iberia, his grand cycle, and then Granados left us Goyescas, inspired, of course, by the paintings of Goya, one of the greatest painters who ever lived, really the Mozart of painting, and these incredibly evocative pieces. And Granados was taken from us all too soon because an opera, he based, the Goyescas were so popular, he turned them into an opera about the life of Goya. And it was premiered in the United States by the Metropolitan Opera in 1916, as in the middle of World War I, in the era of the U-boats. And on the way back, Granados and his wife, their ship was torpedoed, and they both perished. It's terrible. But at least he left us Goyescas, and you're going to play us one of the most famous. I am so... You don't know how lucky you are. You will soon to hear one of the Goyescas. Tell us about this very special piece.
Yes, so what I find very interesting, I love to play Granados and Rachmaninoff in the same program because they were both contemporaries and they were both very famous pianists in their own right and also composers. And they kind of, like you said, brought elements of their own culture into their music. And this particular one is, to me, the most powerful from the Goyescas set. you mentioned Spain. I've been to Spain to perform several times and got to see some of the Goya paintings. And they are just so incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
And in reflecting especially some of the darkest sides about humans that are often hard to talk about, but so relatable. So I think that Granados does an amazing job of capturing this in the music. It kind of goes into almost emotional despair. And then in the middle there's a section of remembrance where he uses themes actually from the previous pieces of the set. And then, well, it ends with the bells basically announcing the death of the loved one. So it's very, very powerful and one of my favorite pieces.
Thank you for bringing it to us.
Some of these etudes, and he asked for like specific paintings. And he quoted some for the later etudes, but he said that he wanted the listener to kind of paint their own painting as they listened.
Yes, and indeed you will. 3 of the etudes tableaux are on. We forget that Rachmaninoff detractors love to go, oh, it's just all these tunes, you know, like the second piano concerto. But they're no tunes. It's all atmosphere. He does it all through atmosphere and tonalities, and that's so amazing. And that was amazing. So thank you. Now I think we have some dessert.
Yes.
We have a wild card, as we say. The one piece of the program which I know absolutely nothing. So I'm going to let Priscila tell us.
The next piece I will be performing is Canto by Jimmy Lopez. In 2013 I did my Carnegie solo recital review. And it was very important to me to include a piece by a Brooklyn composer. And also important to include a piece by a living composer. And this piece was both. And I was very lucky because somebody had commissioned this piece years before, but never made time to learn it. So when I asked Jimmy if he had anything for me, he told me about this piece. He was a big inspiration for me because he was a very successful Peruvian musician. He wrote an opera for commissioned by René Fleming for the Chicago Lyric Opera. He's currently at the Houston Symphony Orchestra, composer in residence. So the piece is called Cantu, which is a word in Quechua. And Quechua was the language of the Incas before the Spanish people came to South America. And this word means is a flower that grows in the mountains of the Andes. And this flower has a very short life because it gets very cold very quickly. So the music kind of reflects this in a staggering growth towards this huge climax that uses really all registers of the piano. And then it kind of suddenly dies away. And it is based on the harmony of the augmented chord. And so you will hear a lot of that type of sonority. So I hope you enjoy it.
fabulous recital and beautifully judged and paced. Just bravo to you. Beautiful. And Kristen and Dogan and Frederick and Lance, thank you for bringing new life into the Haida. And Amanda, thank you guys always for seeing it through. And I am just so excited about the week ahead, and I look forward to your masterclass tomorrow. And I know we all wish you every success.
Thank you so much.
Well, any questions, remarks, or shall we proceed to back to the festivities? We shall proceed.
Thank you very much for listening.
All right.
Yes,
Bill, thank you.
You know what Bill did? Jody and over and I do. Thank you, Jody.
Bill's been in the kitchen all week.
Thank you, Bill.